I'm busy.
Exactly. We'll talk about your definition of success later.
Yeah.
Now, whereabouts are you based at the moment, Sam?
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles at the moment.
Right.
We usually have a studio here.
Mhm.
It's on an independent film lot.
Right.
But because of COVID, we all kind of moved for the last year, moved to working from home.
Sure.
Um,
That's just
so
the way things are at the moment, isn't it?
yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm sure that for a lot of people, and a
Yes,
lot of people around the world, but a lot of people in New Zealand as well, it's the same thing.
absolutely.
Um,
Are things getting
but
a bit easier there? Is any, I don't know what normal is,
yeah,
but are you going, yeah,
yeah, they are. I'll probably actually move back to the studio maybe next week, which will be nice.
oh, all right.
So yeah, um,
Mm.
but still, I mean, it's hard to tell sometimes whether we're in lockdown or not because it's just been so long.
Yeah,
It's been almost a year of full lockdown and then social distancing. So
yes, yeah, of
yeah,
course. I mean, I've kind of joked that time has basically lost all meaning, and
yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But I mean, thankfully, thank goodness, we're in an industry that didn't really stop over here, right? Post
mm,
production can happen. You saw that in every part of post production, and
mm.
yeah, we're back into the recording studios and stuff as well.
We can basically
So
we have the freedom to work in darkened rooms by
yeah,
ourselves
yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Whether that's healthy or not, I don't know. It always happens. So
Exactly. But just for members, just I mean, I will put up a bit of information about you, but can you just give me just like your brief,
yeah,
like
sure.
who are you? You know, what do you, where have you come from, and what are you doing? Basically, then we'll get into some detail.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, uh, my wife and I, we actually we moved overseas just to travel, and I ended up applying for a college that I'd wanted to go to for a long time,
Mhm,
and very luckily got a scholarship there.
mhm.
Probably because I'm a New Zealander, actually.
Sure.
That
You're like, ooh,
that carries a lot of the weight around the world, especially in the States. I realize, um,
mm,
and ended up here in Los Angeles in about 2015
mhm.
and did some internships, and then got hired by the guy I did a first internship with,
Right.
and became part of his team. We got on really well.
And is that Jeff
Um,
Russo? Is that yeah?
yeah, Jeff Russo. That's right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, I worked for him for 1 year, and then for family reasons, we had to move back. We actually went to Australia for
ah,
2 years.
right.
So we went to Melbourne. I have some sisters there in Melbourne,
Mhm.
and but originally I'm from New Zealand originally,
Yeah,
of course.
you've got traces. Well, the accent kind of comes and goes.
Yeah,
I'm sure you have the same thing. Whenever I go to the States, I try to order coffee, and people just look at
I
me
know. Yeah,
blankly.
yeah.
I'll say Marshall, and they'll go, and I'll say Marshall.
Marshall. Yeah.
Yes, that's completely insane. But you've
Yeah,
been here for
absolutely.
how long now?
And then yeah, we came back. We came back probably 6 months before COVID happened.
Ah, wow.
So yeah, I think we're going on. Uh, if I do my maths right, yeah, almost 2.5 years
All right.
now. I
Yeah.
think. So yeah, and I, while we were in Australia, I was very lucky that Jeff would keep me on. So I just worked for him overseas for the whole time.
Sure.
And then coming back here, I just sort of slotted into place again. And yeah, I mean, the team's sort of
Mm.
dynamically changed a little bit along that way, but yeah, it's been a good ride.
So for a big name like Jeff, how many people are involved, like in his team? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It can vary, year to year. Some years it's busier, but uh, generally the last year's got even busier. Um,
Hmm.
at the moment, I'd say there's about 6 people involved,
Sure.
full time. There's other camps here, which I've heard more, like 12 people and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, Jeff likes to keep it pretty personal and pretty
Yeah.
manageable as well. So
And obviously you get on well and you're connected, so you know that's why you work with people you like, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
who are
right.
these? Who's the team like? So what does everybody do? What are the different roles? I guess just
Yeah,
because this is pretty novel. Like as you know, in New Zealand, everybody's a one man or one person band,
yeah.
really.
So that yeah, exactly what you said there was such a huge adjustment for me because yeah, almost anywhere else, isn't it? Especially in New Zealand, you do what you have to do from the scheduling all the way through to the accounting, right, and including the writing the music in the middle.
If you're lucky.
Here, it's a lot. If you're lucky, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot more specialization. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
But even still, I mean, a lot of the people have come through internships along the way. So the general role is quite well rounded, but then people specialize. You know, we have people. There's a guy on staff who does mix engineering and just mix engineering.
Sure.
Um,
But that's separate. Is this just pre-mix before, like, they don't, Jeff doesn't handle the whole mix or anything like that, does he? Or
we'll mix all the music, yeah, and
you do?
Okay. Then send it off to the dubbing stage to get dubbed in with dialogue, sound effects, and ADR and the likes of those. I mean, we're very lucky as well to do a lot of orchestra recording dates, so that's really great too. And of course, we need a mix engineer for that. So there's quite a lot of music that comes across the desk. We have one guy who focuses on tech, just a brilliant tech guy. Although he handles a number of other things. It's basically, I guess part of it is kind of like New Zealand in that you specialize in one thing, but you got to be able to fill the gaps when there are gaps.
Sure. So do you all have separate rigs? I mean, at the moment, you must all have your own rigs that you all kind of make work however you can.
Yeah, that's right. Separate rigs, and with separate offices there. He's got Jeff's got quite a few rooms there on the lot, which is cool, but everything's all linked up together. And once everybody comes back from being at home, that'll be really nice to have that team environment.
So you're usually working in a studio sort of environment, and going between rooms and talking to each other. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
okay.
Which I think everybody's been missing Jeff most of all as well.
Yeah. So this is on a film production lot. So there's a whole bunch of other different production companies of all sorts of types. Yeah,
that's right. It's the Raleigh Studios lot. It's just in Hollywood. I think Netflix rents out most of all the other rooms there. I think there's three big sound stages, but I mean, we don't really have anything to do with them. But no, it's cool. Jeff's been there for a long time. So
sure, and I guess that's also just part of being part of the general production world there, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
I mean, we have that in a very minor way, probably more in Wellington than anywhere where there's kind of clustered around Park Road Post and things like that. But but this is a whole other scale of things. So did it sort of blow your mind a little bit? I mean, you studied. I saw on your blurb you did a bit of studies in the UK, and then Berkeley or however you say it, I never know.
Yeah.
That's where you sort of did most of your studies in the States, or you did that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that was pre-COVID times, and I got to study in person there. I had wanted to go there since I was about 14 years old, and entered there at relatively a late student at probably I don't know 28 maybe. So
student.
Yeah. So I had a lot of questions. I took to it. I took to it really well because it had been a long time coming. But sorry. The question was.
Well, I guess it's was your clear focus from there staying in the States? Like that's where, I mean, obviously that's where the bulk of the industry is. So that was your mission.
No, I had no clue at all.
Okay.
Yeah. No, only because I don't know. As some people may know, the US visa system is really quite difficult. I mean, from the outset, it's very difficult, but actually, there's parts of it that's not super difficult. So I didn't know. If you study here, you can get 1 year's work experience, and I think they actually just extended that to 3 years. We didn't quite know.
The lottery thing is there as well, the green card lottery and things like that.
There's the green card lottery. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, for anybody thinking of going to the States, I mean, if anybody had that idea, I would say enter the green card lottery every year, because it's astonishing how many people you hear about winning it. I mean, I've probably met 15 people who've won the green card lottery. And I think Australia and especially New Zealand have much better odds than a lot of countries, because it does play the odds of who's won it before and stuff. But yeah, so we thought, the one thing I really realized about here in Hollywood is that if you're here, your chances of getting involved exponentially rise. So if you're available to start the next day or something like that, then it almost doesn't matter what skills you have, to get a foot in the door. So we thought, we'd spent all this time in the States, so might as well just try out Los Angeles.
Give it a go. Yeah.
Give it a go. Yeah. And found our way into an internship, and then it kind of it just went well from there. Yeah.
My impression from doing a lot of international work over the years, and whenever I go to the States, well, not for a while now, obviously, but is that they love Kiwis, obviously. They're crazy, and why shouldn't they? But it's more, that they're happy to work with whoever, but they want you to be there. Like, all the work we do in Asia and stuff, they couldn't care less where you were. They don't care at all. And maybe it's just they just want people there, that they can see them, that they can work with them, whereas Kiwis are so used to working remotely because we are so remote. So you've proven that, obviously.
That you're spot on there. If you're able to say, look, I'm in town and I can be there tomorrow, I can meet you tomorrow, I can be there for lunch tomorrow, then that means so much more than sending something in. I know that for some people that's not super realistic, but for some people, it definitely makes things tricky. And even when I was working in Australia for Jeff, still it's quite easy to slip away, from the system.
Do you think it's just a cultural thing? It's terrible generalizing like this. They're a big international country, but they're very American focused, and they can't quite picture, different time zones are still, or different.
Definitely. And also time frames of especially television, even film, but especially television. It's not always the ideal situation. It's not how can we do this the best, or who can we get this to do the best job. It's this needs to be done by tomorrow morning. So so when you're here, and especially in an internship is classic. It's like you get put in those situations all the time because you're there. You're there in front. And I would say that the thing that surprised me maybe the most is how much influence Flight of the Conchords have in the States. It's not even a joke, but it's probably why I got the internship and then got hired. It's because everybody there loves Flight of the Conchords. Yeah.
Wow.
I owe a lot to Flight of the Conchords and the guys there.
Yeah. Well, I hope you've got some good material you can drop in.
Yeah.
So looking at your work, which is pretty impressive. Now, there's some terms that I understand, but I thought maybe and some of them I don't. Just because it's a different world. Like now, I'm looking at your credits, which, and I'll put this up for members later.
Yeah, sure.
But like, for instance, score editor, and then you've got additional music, and then you've got composer assistant. Like, there's all these different roles. Like, what the hell do they mean? I guess.
Yeah. That's a great question. So maybe it's best to start from internship, right? Internship, where generally, I mean, most people know what an internship is, and
being a slave, an unpaid slave.
Yeah. That's, I mean, it's very close. And you can imagine in Hollywood, it's even more so. But then that probably the easiest way for people to get into jobs if people want to be in composing camps is through a tech position. So knowing how to work a rig, knowing how to work Contact in Vienna, and we do everything in Pro Tools here. But a tech position is basically a good in with a composing camp. Yeah. And then, I mean, again, our camp is very fortunate that we do a lot of recording dates. So I think in the last 3 months, we've done probably done 12 days. So between Warner Brothers, Fox, and Abbey Road, we've got one this weekend at Abbey Road as well. It's nice. Sadly, we're not going there, which is a real bummer. But for the Warner Brothers and Fox, they're opened up again. We're going to those sessions.
And what's your role in a session like that, or maybe that sort of, we can talk about that as you get.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So there's a lot of prep to go into a session. The music needs to get written, of course. It needs to get orchestrated. So there's a lot of prep for orchestration. We use orchestrators out of house, so that's a very specific role as well here. Some fantastic orchestrators here. And then there's a lot of prep as well, just to get the session ready for Warner Brothers or Fox or somewhere like that.
Sure.
Just the prelays and the tempo maps and all of that sort of jazz. And then, on the day, I'll usually sit there with headphones and listen back to just what's being recorded, check the performance. Is it what we want? What things do we need to stripe out, so record separately from the other things? Either for, mainly it's to make the editing job a bit quicker and a bit easier. And then lately I've done a bit of conducting, actually, which has been really cool this season of Trek. So
nice.
That's been a real thrill for me.
What sort of size orchestras are we talking generally?
Generally for a Trek date, either Discovery or Picard will do it'll be a double, so there'll be strings and winds in the morning session for 3 hours.
Sure.
And that'll be our last numbers was probably 40 strings and 4 winds, and the brass sessions. We just changed the brass numbers recently to 6 horns, I think 3 trumpets, 4 trombones, and 1 tuba.
There's always a lot of, like in those Trek scores, there's always a lot of big brass stuff.
I think Goldsmith used to use like 8 horns and 2 tubas, and that would be pretty amazing. But it's like it's set by budget and studio budget and things.
And you're, I assume, combining this with other sampled stuff and other stuff to get that sort of hybrid sound like everybody does. That's right. I mean, obviously, the more budget, the more things you can get on stage. So we don't really do percussion live, although we are. Next week we're recording some main titles, and so we've got live timpani and live percussion. But when it's this quick a turnaround, and sometimes you also have to be able to edit this on the back end as well, if you're getting changes and things like that. Right.
So it seems to work out. So
you're a percussionist. Weren't you trained as a percussionist? So do you ever get to, or do anything? Was it all programmed sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I program a lot of the percussion just because that, for me, that's second nature. You know, a lot of other people, it's piano and things like that. But
yeah,
there's definitely, yeah. I mean, that's the cool thing about film score in Hollywood. It's that a lot of people have different backgrounds. You know, there's a lot of guitar players, and they'll write in a completely different style or a different way. Actually, Jeff's a guitar player originally. Yeah, so
you can't have everything. I'm a piano player, so I'm
yeah, cool.
guitar. No, but everybody has their different angles.
I wish I was a better piano player. Yeah, that would make writing a lot quicker, I think. But yes.
Yeah.
Then the score editing part of that is we take all that material home, or back to the studio. And then all of that needs to get put together. So generally, last season I would take all that, and this is what I was doing in Australia as well. Edit it, make it in time as well, because it's quite difficult. You know, if you've ever been to a live orchestra, they're usually quite a bit behind the conductor, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Depending on the quality of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't change at Warner Brothers or Fox either. I mean, it astounds me how good they are at sight reading and things like that. You put a sheet of paper in front of them and they'll nail it first time. But still, those natural dynamics of the orchestra are still there. So
how many cues are we talking? Like, if you've got 3-hour session and you're laying just strings and winds or whatever, like how many cues are you trying to get through? I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Who knows?
Probably for 3 hours for that, 20 minutes might be a standard. We could probably get 25 if we're pushing it. And that's just for that kind of setup. You know, if you weren't striping and you were really just going for it, maybe you could get more. I don't know if the unions may have a limit to it as to how much music. I could be wrong about that. I don't know the union rules here, but
sure.
I rely on other people to know them.
Just say, stop. We're going to get. I know the rules are very strict there, aren't they? Yeah.
They're quite strict. Yeah.
So you're trying to get 20 minutes of total recording of music time down.
Yeah.
And so in the afternoon you're going to do the same, the same cues with brass. Then you're going to go away as a score editor and basically tidy it up and combine it with whatever stuff you've already got laid down, I'm assuming.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And probably some back-end production as well. Generally we'll finesse it, add the last sort of 5% to the cues. And then that gets sent to the mix engineer, and he'll mix it as a full piece. You know, I used to do that process last season a lot more. This season it's just got too busy. So I've handed that off to the guy who does tech, who's doing astonishing at it as well. So.
And so now I'm looking at all these different series. So there's obviously now Jeff's got stuff rolling all the time. Is it just all year, or you have this sort of season, or can you go and kind of lie under a tree for the rest of the year?
No, at the moment it feels like it's all year. I mean, January was a bit quieter, but I think we were still coming out of Clarice in January. It really hasn't stopped. It is almost year round. At the moment, it's almost ridiculous how busy it is. But when you love what you do, it's a lot easier. As I'm sure everybody there will understand.
Yeah. Absolutely. So how many episodes are we talking for? You're working on Picard, but it must be season 2, is it?
It is Picard season 2. They actually scheduled it so that as soon as we finish season 2, season 3 rolls straight into into production. So we'll have a solid year of Picard. And
how many episodes per season?
Oh, I don't know that off the top of my head. I think last season was about 13, or maybe that was Discovery. So yeah, I'd say we're about halfway through the second season in terms of outside of things.
And are you getting to actually write? And that's the other, obviously, the main question I want to. You obviously do get to write some music as well as just
Yeah, that's right. There's there's been a number of shows which I've been able to write on, which is really awesome, and another number of different styles. And I come from a slightly jazz background too, so whenever those jazz inspired things come across the path, I generally get handed those, which is really cool because it's a bit of a niche. But yeah, and then actually I got my first co-credit show just at the moment in production, which is Swimming with Sharks. It's based on the movie, Kevin Spacey movie of the same name.
Okay.
So yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, no, I've been writing on things for about a year now, maybe 2 years. I mean, there's a lot of music that goes through here. So
I guess where do you you probably don't have time to think about like future career aspirations, but where do you want to be? I guess. I mean, what do you most prefer doing? What do you like doing the most?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I love writing, definitely. I love composing. I get a real kick out of it. I love studying it. I still love studying it. Just here. That's I guess the beauty of this job when it's at I won't say when it's at my level because I'm still working here, but when it's at Jeff's level, it encompasses many different aspects that you can do. You can be doing recording sessions, you can be doing conducting, you can be doing interviews if that so takes your fancy. But so I think that kind of job does it does have a lot of variety to it. For me, I guess I do love writing. I can't be that's a long way up. So
I mean, it looks like there's kind of like in all life, there's a progression, and it seems to me that, or from my own experience, when I came from being like in bands and things like that, and realizing quite early on that it was never going to make me much of a living, well, not for me. And I stumbled across writing for screen, but it sounded like you always had a bit of a plan, like, or you were aware of this as a career in itself quite early on.
Yeah, definitely aware of it. Yeah, I mean, I think I did a diploma when I was back in New Zealand when I was a lot younger. So it was definitely on the radar. But then I became a cabinet maker for 8 years. So things, I kind of got on with life a little bit, and only really when we decided to travel and just get out of the country a little bit, did things really sort of I guess it just changed in my mind really that things were possible to do. I mean, I count myself very lucky to be doing what I love, and doing it, here as well. Even here, it's a small market. It's quite a niche thing, which was really interesting to discover. But not to say that it can't be done here. It definitely can be done.
Yes.
But it's just you think when you come to Hollywood, it's going to be everywhere, and everyone's going to know everyone, and everybody kind of does know everybody, but
yes,
it's a lot smaller than I thought it would be.
Yeah, well, I guess, I mean, look, music's always going to be a niche, and there's always, it's always going to be a small community. And I did notice that, my period in my brief journeys to LA, that, as you say, everybody's incredibly specialized. And I met somebody who was just amazed that my company did music for pretty much every. I said, we'll just do anything because we have to,
you have to do anything.
We're kind of like musical whores, and that's what we're going to do.
Yes, you can't say no, I won't do animation because, well, what if animation's the only thing coming across your path?
I mean, like this guy was like, I only do romantic comedy music and it's only piano or something. What? So obviously it's a big market, but there's only going to be a handful of people at Jeff Russo or whoever's level, and he's I mean, he must have been working for a long time to get to that.
Well, again, another thing that's funny about Hollywood, and I guess this is the same everywhere, but it makes it more astonishing in Hollywood because you romanticize it so much that it's all contacts and connections. It's all somebody who you've met at a party or someone who your kids went to school with or something like that. Someone's parents.
Human connections, basically.
Human connection. Those from, story after story, that's how people get the jobs. I can't even think of a story of where someone was so good that they pitched for something and they got it. That I haven't even heard of a story like that.
Which I'm obviously having some talent and working like a dog for a bit.
Absolutely. Once you have the gig, or once you even apply for a gig, you have to, of course, back it up with the skills to do it.
Absolutely.
And it is a lot of work here. Like there's some weeks we'll pull 100 hours or something like that.
Right.
Just to get things, because you can't miss deadlines. If there's one crucial rule, one cardinal law, you can't miss a deadline.
No, not when you're pumping out year in year out all these different skills. So I guess
that's right.
And I guess I've always sort of said this, and I hear this all the time. It's really important that you need to be easy to work with, and I guess nice, like a nice or easy. Just as have you?
Yes.
I mean, you must find that working with a small team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The classic example of that is the musicians that we get, because we get basically get the same musicians every time. And the number one comment about the musician is that they are the nicest people anyone's ever met. And generally they are. They're just the sweetest and kindest. And these are people who will go and play Mozart at the Disney Hall one week and then come in and play your cues the next day or something like that. So they're very gracious and they're very skilled.
Very passive and medicated.
That's right. But being easy to work with. Networks and being easy to work with are probably the two biggest things here in Hollywood.
Sure. I think that's probably the same anywhere, but it is really about who you know and doing good work and connecting, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, and I guess I'm just looking at any other questions on my list. I mean, are there any other sort of bits of advice that you wish you'd been given? I guess. I mean, I get asked, and the guild gets asked constantly, like, how do I start out? How do I become a film composer? I'm sure you're asked that as well. What do you say to people?
Yeah, starting out is so film. As I'm sure most of the people in the guild will contest, is that there's lots of different routes and there's lots of different styles that you can start out as. If someone's a metalhead or someone likes to do drum circle or something like that, you can guarantee that there's a place for that in the film scoring community. I guess I can speak to somebody wanting to do something in the States. More so, is that you don't have to study to be here. The only thing that study helps with in the States is getting a 1 year or 3 year visa. But if somebody's here, even on a tourist visa and gets to meet people, I think that most of the composers here are open to, especially New Zealanders, just like we said before. Meeting and then work on a killer demo reel. work on a demo reel that really sells. You know, I don't think you have to sell everything. I think you have to sell who you are. It's different if you want to go into a composing camp because you do have to become a bit of a jack of all trades, or you have to conform a little bit the style. But if you're just doing something for yourself, then find your own sound, of course.
Okay.
So all of that's very generic, though, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. People do need to find their own path, and I think that's the difficult part about answering that question, which we all get asked at a certain level, is that there is no clear path, and there's lots of ways of doing it. And you, as you say, you kind of had various other careers and other, you know, and you sort of you moved in that direction, and then it becomes clearer as you understand the industry more, I guess.
Yeah. If I was to study again, I would actually probably do more papers at something like a school for film and television, a directing school, because it's those relationships which would vastly enhance your career, and not enhance sounds in a derogatory way, but those are the relationships that you're going to develop over time and do things together with. I think so. Yeah, again, networking and relationships, all of us. You know, I'm terrible at working on, right?
It's perhaps not a natural setting for Kiwis. Just we're so understated, and I know, having been to a few of those sort of parties and Bel Air and crazy places where you have to really, like, you've got you know, and everybody's like, what can you do for me, and this is what I do, and you know, it's a whole. So if you had to go out of your comfort zone a bit,
just as you said, Americans don't hold back on praise for themselves. So when you
which we would never do.
No, that's absolutely true. And when you know, the normal New Zealand thing to do is like, oh, you know, I do some things, and then people ask, are you good at it? Yeah, you know, I'm okay at it. That in America doesn't go down so well. So you learn to be, I guess in New Zealand we would say overconfident in it, you know, to be able to back it up, but to not turn down speaking about your own skills, which for about 3 years felt really gross for me. It probably still feels gross.
I think it's amazing to see people do it. I just think it's incredible.
I know,
especially if you're obviously not of interest to them, and they'll just turn on their heel.
Oh yeah, sure.
Which a couple of times I was just left with my jaw dropped. I would never do that to anybody, but it's a different world.
No. And probably at the end of the day, the lasting relationships are the more genuine relationships too, right? It's the people who aren't doing that. Most of the stuff that's I think more common sense for New Zealanders, but is a bit harder to learn over here. Yeah.
Sure. Well, look, thank you very, very much. I mean, really, I thought for members it'd just be interesting. We're trying to do more of these just short interviews, really just of a whole bunch of different people, just to sort of find out what on earth people do and how they're, because that's how you learn. Just like you you know, watched other people listen and thought, how the hell? I didn't even know there was a thing. You know, so that's fantastic.
No, I love that. That's really awesome. I mean, if anyone's in town, they should give me a bell too, and we can go around the studio, or you know, whatever people.
I'm sure
looking to get in the side.
Pick you up on that. Have you got a sofa they could crash on? No, I
I mean, I do, but I have 2 young kids as well.